In this math lesson, we're going to talk about how I can create equivalent fractions using mathematical strategies. All right, so let's take a look at our first example. 1/2 is our big, this is the one that you just have to know. So one of the easiest ways to create any equivalent fraction to 1/2 is by looking at your numerator and your denominator and coming up with multiples and then counting on from there. So the multiples of 1 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just by counting by ones. Now your multiples of 2 would be counting by 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now if you go through and put your fraction bar there, all of these numbers, if you do them in the correct order, are equivalent fractions to 1/2. 2 4s, 3 6, 4 8s, and 5 10s. But let's say though that you have a different fraction like 1/3. Well, it's the exact same principle. For 1/3, you'll be looking at, well, what are the multiples of 1 again? Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the multiples of 3 would be you counting by 3s. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. Now it gets a little tricky, but not too much more if your numerator is not a 1. So we're going to do the same thing. Count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. You can keep going. I'm just going to stop here. And look at your bottom. You're going to count by multiples of 3. So 3, 6, 9, 12, and 15. Okay? Now those are ways you can just make any multiple that you want to based on any fraction or any equivalent fraction that you need to based on the ones you're given. But let's say though that you are given 3/9 and you need to find which fraction is equivalent. So the way that I'm going to teach this is this. Let me erase these here. Okay. What number goes into 3 and 9? Okay. So let's start up here. Well, 3 goes into 3. 3 divided by 3, one time. Same down here. Whatever you do at the top, you have to do the bottom. 3 goes into 9 3 times. So 1/3 is an equivalent fraction to 3/9. So like I said, another way that you can find equivalent fractions is by identifying what same number goes into the numerator and the denominator. But let's say you have a number like 2/7. Well, 2/7 doesn't have any number that 2 and 7 both go in. 2 doesn't go into 7, so you could not do that. So this is your smallest one. But if you want to make a larger equivalent fraction, you do the same thing where you're just looking at your numerator and denominator and you're counting your multiples. So 2 looking up to 2 would be 4. Looking up to 7 multiples would be 14. Okay? But like I said, when you want to go the other way, like making a smaller fraction, you really have to look at your numerator and your denominator and make sure that the same number goes into them. So one more. 5 and 15. Does 5 go into 15? Yes, it does. 5 also goes into 5. So how many times does 5 go into 5? Well, we know it's one time. Do the same thing on the bottom. Divide this by 5 as well. 15 divided by 5 equals 3. Okay? So when you're trying to get larger, you're multiplying. When you need to find a smaller, you would be dividing. All right? Hopefully this helped you use math to find equivalent fractions.